Your love life did not start with your ex. It didn't even start with your first crush. It started with your father. And you don't have to hate him to admit this. He left marks on you. This doesn't always happen through violence or betrayal. Sometimes it's silence. Sometimes it's criticism. Sometimes it's indifference. And those invisible wounds, they're still running your dating life right now. They're the reason that you chase men who won't commit, why you overgive until you're resentful, and why you mistake anxiety for chemistry. Now, you've probably said this to yourself before. I had a decent childhood. My dad did his best. And yet, you're still craving male approval. You're still afraid of disappointing men. You're still bending over backwards to prove that you're good enough. So, all right, you wonder, why do I keep ending up with emotionally unavailable men? Why do I stay when I know it's destroying me? And then the shame sets in. Maybe it's my fault. Maybe I'm just not good enough. Maybe this is all I will ever get. I want to be very clear here. You are not crazy for thinking this way, but you're also not doomed. What you are is wired by the attachment wounds that your father left in you. I'm Adam Lane-Smith, the attachment specialist, and I've spent the last 16 years learning and helping people to develop and rewire attachment patterns, especially attachment patterns shaped by early family dynamics. That includes thousands of women who've been wounded by their fathers and never realized just how deep those wounds were. In this video, I'm going to show you the 7 most common father wounds that secretly keep women stuck in toxic love. More importantly than that, though, I'm going to show you what each wound looks like in adulthood, how it formed, and the first steps you can take to fix it. You're going to see why you keep attracting probably avoidant men, why you panic when somebody pulls away, and why no amount of trying harder will ever fix it. You'll also see that none of this is permanent. These are not death sentences. They're patterns, and those patterns can be rewired. So by the end of this video today, you won't just understand why you've been struggling. You'll have a map for how to start transforming so that your father's voice no longer runs your love life. Stay with me till the end of this video, because once you see these wounds, you'll never unsee them. Wound number 1 is what I call the never good enough wound. The invisible message here is that you are always a disappointment. Now, in adulthood, what you're going to see with this one is that you find men who don't value you, and then you feel compelled to prove them wrong. These are men that you pour your heart into and they look the other way. They are disinterested. They only text you on their time. They might leave you on read for days until they get bored enough to text back. You have to fit into their life, not as a human being, but as an object for entertainment or for feeling good. This doesn't have to be sleazy. It can simply be that they don't understand how human connection works, so they are so stressed out, they don't make time for you at all. They might not be disrespecting you on purpose, but you take that disrespect and you assume that's all you'll get. And you view it as a challenge to prove, I'm worth more than that. He needs to see it. So you overcompensate in your relationships. You perform just to feel tolerated. You overperform and you overgive and you show up again and again and again. And meanwhile, your own self-respect dwindles. Now, deep down, you chase avoidant men because they mirror dad's disapproval or lack of attention or lack of presence. It doesn't mean that your dad was angry or selfish or criticized you. Maybe he just never made time for you. Maybe he was never looking at you when you needed him to. Maybe he was so buried in stress and work that he never made you a priority. And now you're used to that. So let's talk about exactly why this happens, okay? Children measure their worth through their parents' gaze, especially the opposite sex parent. You feel safe and learn with your same-sex parent, usually, but the opposite sex parent sets your worth for how you should expect to be treated, especially in romance. If dad's gaze was critical or absent, disinterested, disconnected, he was never there. Even if his body was there, his mind was not. Your brain equated love with constant rejection. The neuroscience calls this a negative bias. Your brain stores painful memories faster than positive ones. Your hippocampus actually develops differently to store painful memories better and let the good memories go into areas that it won't access as much. So you will mostly remember the negatives, and you will really remember them. At a moment's notice, they'll be right there to pull out again. And this wires you to expect constant criticism. Now, inside your head, this will show up like your dad's voice showing up inside your head, or his words in your voice inside your head. Okay? We're going to label it. Okay? That's not me. That's dad. That's one thing that you can begin doing. That's not me. That's dad. When you have a negative thought about yourself, that's dad. Or you can even say, that's attachment. Okay? We're going to start externalizing these thoughts from you. I have to chase him for approval. Otherwise, he'll see that I'm not good enough. Oh, that's attachment. Wait. You may not catch it in the moment, but as you cool down, start sorting through your thoughts. Who's saying this? Great practice is when you have a thought that troubles you at all, who's saying this? Or who taught me this? Where did this come from? It's a very interesting practice to begin initializing right now in your life. Another practice, and I'm going to throw this out there, even if you can't begin it today, it will seem a little bit overwhelming. I'm telling you that right now. Choosing value-reflective partners. Start filtering the men you see who see your worth instead of that person compels me to chase them. I really want that person to like me, so I must like them. Most anxiously attached women aren't actually in love with the man that they're obsessing over. She feels so compelled to prove that she has worth that her brain says, oh, I must love him. You actually mistake fear for love. You also need to rewire your worth. Okay? Most people with anxious attachment, and that's really what this is, they try to practice daily affirmations. I am worthy of love. That doesn't really work. Okay? It honestly doesn't, because your brain will say, nobody has ever told me I'm worthy of love, so I must not be. We do look for external validation, but what we need to shift is not that you are worthy or not. What we need to shift is the tracking of what makes a person worthy. Okay? It is not the services you provide or the feelings you give other people. That's right now what you're measuring. What services do I provide and what feelings do I provide to other people? What experience do I give others? This actually turns you into an object inside your own head. You're objectifying yourself and dehumanizing yourself. We need to shift to something else, which is, do I follow my ethics of right and wrong? Am I following what's right and avoiding what's wrong most of the time, right? Am I consistent and self-correcting if I do deviate at all? Do I correct back and do what's right? And number two, am I pursuing my goals that I respect? I respect my long-term goals. They're good. And I respect my sense of right and wrong, and I stick to it as best as I can. And I stick to those things again and again. And so the people I respect see me with worth because of my character. This is a reframe that you're going to have to make. And then the decisions you make shouldn't be what will make people like me or what won't make people dislike me. It's what are my values and goals, and then how do people respond to those? When people dislike you, they shouldn't dislike you. They should dislike your values and your goals. See the difference there? That doesn't mean that you have no worth or that you're bad then at that point. It means that those people don't like your values or goals, so you should probably get away from them. Recalibrating your worth away from services and feelings rehumanizes you. We want to rehumanize you in your own brain. Now, I was working with a client recently who always dated skeptical, dismissive men. She didn't pick bad manipulators either. The people she was picking were thoughtful and kind when they were with her. But the moment they would separate from that date and they wouldn't talk to her for the rest of the week, she would get nervous and anxious and feel like she had to constantly chase them for approval. The first day after the date was okay because she was still riding high from feeling connected. But as she fell off what we call the oxytocin cliff and started having biochemical withdrawals from those hormones, she would start to text, and he wouldn't text back. Occasionally he would read it and then set it aside, but wouldn't respond. She went crazy. every time. But then the next weekend, they'd connect and he'd be attentive and on point, and she'd get her needs met. This had gone on, by the way, for 3 years. A situationship every weekend for 3 years and going crazy every single week. That is 156 weeks for those of you who are counting. This is a lot of pain for her. She only fixed this when she started recalibrating her worth to her goals and her long-term principles. Once she did, she could step in and tell him, hey, look, this relationship isn't serving my long-term goals. You're not bad and I'm not mad at you, but I need something more than this. And actually, at 3 years, he said, oh, well, sure, we can explore that. That's not a problem. Let's do it. She said, great. For me to be more successful, I'm going to need more consistent communication, and I'm going to need more check-ins than just every weekend. Can we set up a time on Wednesday to Zoom or something like this? And he said, I'll do you one better. We'll have Wednesday night dates. So they started setting that up. They got into a full committed relationship, and things got drastically better. And he finally found respect for her in a new way, and she did too. Now, for some daughters out there, though, it's not about being never good enough. It's about only feeling safe when you were perfect. And that brings us to wound number 2, the performance equals safety wound. Now, the invisible message here is that you are only lovable when you succeed at 100%. In adulthood, this looks like you hustle in love, like it's a job interview. You are constantly working as if you are going to get fired tomorrow. Rest feels unsafe. Having needs feels unsafe. Falling short feels unsafe. You cook him an excessively lavish dinner, but you forget a garnish and you say, oh, I've ruined everything, right? You don't look at the joy of what you give to your partner. You look at the tiniest flaws that detract from the perfection of what you're giving your partner. You don't look at your 99% amazing success rate. You look at that 1% failure. Rest, imperfection, humanity feels unsafe. And you crumble when you make mistakes because mistakes equal abandonment or hurt or rejection. Now, I'm going to contrast this with a securely attached relationship. Mistakes are opportunities to learn and grow. Perfection is never expected, but it's pursued relentlessly. And the target is to become perfect by the time you're 99 years old. Anxiously attached people and quiet, disorganized attached people are trying to be perfect now, or something horrible is going to happen. Now, why does this happen? Well, in childhood, if dad only lit up when you aced a test or you won a trophy, if the only time your dad was on and pumped for you was when you excelled, your nervous system equated that level of achievement with safety. Biologically, your cortisol rises every time that you fear failure. That trains your body to stay in fight or flight mode, just to stay loved. I will only be loved when I'm perfect, and I'm only perfect when I'm so scared that I'm riding panic, and that drives me to overperform. Then, with adrenaline surging through my system constantly, I can be loved. That's your nervous system. Because in childhood, your father lighting up and being there for you was only there for perfection. And you equated safety, we usually do, with our father. I am safe when dad loves me, and dad loves me when I'm perfect. I have to win a trophy every time. Ladies, I'm going to be blunt. This happens in the bedroom. You're trying to win a trophy, right? For him being happy. Not you, by the way. For him. Okay? You're trying to win a trophy in the kitchen. You're trying to win a trophy at work. You're trying to win a trophy with paychecks. You're trying to win a trophy with how much you spend or don't spend. You're trying to win a trophy with how you rub his shoulders. You try to win a trophy with how you talk or don't talk. You try to win a trophy with your face, with your hair, with your body. You're constantly trying to win a trophy because the trophy is, look, I'm good enough. Don't leave me. I'm a trophy winner. Okay? We got to fix this. The biggest piece is safe imperfection. Asking your partner what level they actually expect you to perform at. Obviously, most partners, they expect you to perform down here. You expect up here, they usually don't care. Like, What I usually tell my female clients, I just told one the other day, right? Set a minimum. What is the absolute minimum he can tolerate in the relationship? Okay. It's usually like 3 out of 10. What is the mediocre level? It's like 6 out of 10. Like mediocre is like 5 or 6 out of 10. What's like excessively good? Oh, like 8 out of 10 is excessively good. Usually the woman is like, well, like I thought 9.5 was the bare minimum or you would throw me away. No. Bare minimum's 3. Mediocre is 5 or 6, right? 7 or 8 is like pretty dang good. This is where your nervous system's going wrong. You're going to have to talk to your partner about their actual expectations. Then you're going to have to let them see you hit those targets and ask them if it's really okay. Then when they're like, yeah, this was great. You're like, really? Yeah? But I forgot the garnish. Doesn't it ruin everything? No. What's a garnish? Like, who cares? Right? As you survive the imperfections and see what they want, you can recalibrate to their targets instead of yours. Okay. Another practice is practicing resting. Viewing your time resting as an investment in yourself, understanding that redlining your system with adrenaline and cortisol actually diminishes your ability to perform. By the way, sad truth. Getting rest time enhances your ability to perform because you're doing it from a fresh, serotonin-rich brain. So I am better for my partner when I rest. Mom guilt, by the way, can be conquered this way. I am better for my children when I rest. So I will take 20 minutes for a hot bath with a bath bomb and Bon Jovi playing in the background with candles and a disco ball, right? Mom guilt can be conquered by understanding that your rest makes you better for everybody around you. If you have to play that little hack in your brain right now, do that. But take care of yourself. Train your nervous system to experience safety without performance. Or even better, view rest as a performance. And the funny part there is if you can get a trophy for best napper, right? I take the best naps and I get the best refreshment. Conquer your fear in the best way that you can. If that's what it takes, do that. And finally, rebuild your sense of worth. I want you to sit down every single day and write down 3 non-performance-based qualities that you value in yourself every day, okay, for the next 30 days. You probably don't know what non-performance-based qualities are. Performance-based qualities are, you do the laundry really well. You always take care of people's feelings. You are always... I am a loving, honest person. I am attentive to others' needs. Okay, that's borderline, but we can do that. I keep my word. I am faithful. I have hope, right? I am gentle. I am peaceful for others. I am a safe place for others to rest. These are not performance-based qualities. They're attributes, maybe how you do things, but this is not measuring your performance. This is your character. Most of you have probably never been praised for your character, not by your father and not by your current partners. Praising your own character is a good attribute. Now, even my highest performing female clients collapse in relationships when they try to earn love because they're burning out. That constant flood of adrenaline and cortisol shreds your hormones. A lot of my female clients come in with hormone challenges and issues that they're trying to treat and medical issues. As we resolve the attachment challenges, fertility usually increases and improves. All their markers of good health improves. They find their estrogen levels go up as they track them with apps and programs like this. Their hormones begin to balance because they're not living on the edge of perceived death every day. And as they hit their partner's numbers, instead of dad's perceived numbers, they can relax and find joy in their life. You can still serve the people you love, but doing it at a level that is sustainable and fulfilling for you so that you can also then get your fulfillment. Totally different game. If you're going to get a trophy in the bedroom, you had better be enjoying the process of getting the trophy. Fair enough? Now, for other women, though, the wound isn't pressure or criticism. It was silence. And that's the loneliness of being invisible. So the third wound we're going to talk about is the chronic loneliness wound. The silence that can wound you deeper than shouting. When dad ignored you. When dad checked out. Maybe dad was gone. Maybe he was a weekend dad who only saw you once in a while. Maybe because of the courts, but also maybe because he just let it happen and didn't fight. Maybe dad left when you were 2 and you didn't see him again until you were 30. Your nervous system learns that love from a man is just going to be starvation. Your system doesn't say, oh, dad's off on a magical adventure. Cool, no problem. Your nervous system says, why wasn't I good enough for him to be here? Why am I not good enough for my boyfriend to show up for me either? Right? Love equals starvation. There's a fear of being alone that drives a lot of women to cling to anyone who shows them attention. Anybody. I'll never forget the one week I had where 3 young women in their early 20s all came to me that one week, and all 3 of them asked me the same question. Adam, do I really have to have sex with men on the very first date so they don't leave me? I get asked all the time, what is my attachment style? What is my attachment style? What is my attachment style? So I have finally launched the attachment assessment. This is not a short quiz that just spits out an answer after 3 seconds. This is a thorough, in-depth, science-backed assessment. Check it out on my website, adamlanesmith.com, and learn your attachment style, the severity of what you're dealing with, and some next steps you can take right now to build very secure attachment. There's a lot of women who are doing anything they can just to not get left behind one more time. And if that's you, I want you to know I'm not here to shame anything that you have done trying to just not be abandoned. It's not what I do. But I do want to tell you, you are worth so much more than that. You just don't know it yet. But for these women, loneliness feels unsafe because it mirrors dad's emotional absence. And a father figure in your life is protection. The presence of a father calms the nervous systems of everybody involved if he's at least reasonably calm, because he is the provider and the protector biochemically. We are built for that. Sorry, feminism. There is no way of getting around that biochemistry. We are built for this. Okay? Dad's presence, his calm presence, is safety. You never had that. Most women I talk to, when I teach them the 4 levels of safety a man must provide, they say, Adam, I've never felt any of those ever for my entire life, even as a child. But they'll cling to men who give them even a scrap of attention. Ultimately, what this does is confuse most women into believing that attention equals affection. He had sex with me, so he must like me. That's what most women fall into, okay? Oxytocin deprivation in your childhood alters your baseline stress levels. Oxytocin going way down and being your metric of safety means your gamma aminobutyric acid, is also down, which means you have unregulated cortisol that you can't control. And your cortisol floods, especially when you're alone, which trains the body to panic in solitude. Think 20,000 years ago. A lone woman in the forest, surrounded by jungle predators and scary people she doesn't know. Your system's not supposed to relax. So now your system says, when I'm alone, I'm in danger. It would be better to cling to someone I sort of know who at least pays some attention to me, because at least I'm not alone in the forest anymore. Now, some solutions to this. First, practice safe solitude. You're going to have to get used to being alone at times, because being alone is actually often good for you. Not chronic loneliness, but being alone. Taking walks, journaling, hobbies you can do by yourself, right? Most people have music playing and they do a hobby with their hands, or they're journaling, or they're walking. All of these are good practices, number 1. Number 2, don't be alone all the time. Anchor yourself in your non-romantic community bonds. You should be getting oxytocin and serotonin and GABA mostly from family and friends. If you don't have family, friends that build a pseudo-family for you. Friendship, healthy, secure friendship is the best medicine I can give you, because they're going to help you filter partners and even pull in good partners in the future. Healthy, non-romantic community bonds are going to be everything for you for the next 6 months at least. You're going to need that really bad, okay? And then, number 3, create a minimum standard list where attention doesn't equal love. Most women go way too far. They have 375 things on their list. He's got to be this tall, right? This color hair, these eyes. He has to have a scar on his chin, right? Like, no. But what characteristics does that man need to have? Start filtering men for character that they have. Their character, not he gave me attention, so I'll give him everything. But let's pause here for a second. What I've shared so far isn't just theory. It's the reality for thousands of women that I have worked with. They were doing all the right things, reading the right books, going to the right therapy, trying to date better men, but they were still stuck in the same painful cycles. Why? Because awareness alone does not fix the problem. Insight without skill, useless. So these wounds don't fade just because you understand them. They only change when you train your nervous system, when you learn secure communication, you practice new patterns in your real relationships and change your brain permanently. That's why the women I coach often see changes in weeks, not years, because they're not just naming the wound, they're rewiring it. So if you're tired of blaming yourself and you're ready to actually fix this and not just talk endlessly about transforming, that's exactly what private coaching with me and my team is designed for. It gives you structure, accountability, and the tools your father never gave you. But don't go away yet. Don't go run and click on the coaching, because we still have 4 more wounds I need to cover with you. And for many women, the next ones are the most surprising because they've been normalized their whole life without ever realizing how destructive that they are. Wound number 4 is what we call the lost identity wound. If dad never affirmed who you were, you grew up without a self. Daughters will mirror what their partners want when they have this issue. It's called the chameleon effect. I will become who you want me to be. I will dress the way you want me to. I will do my hair the way you want me to. I will act the way you want me to. I will talk the way you want me to. I will cook the way you want me to. I will speak or not speak the way you want me to. I will please you. It is a constant shape-shifting that leads to burnout and resentment. Most women get into a relationship, drop everything else in their life, their friends, their hobbies, their interests, even their work, everything, so that they can try to just cling to that relationship. And what that does is destroy the person that man fell in love with in the first place. If you have a good partner, he mourns your loss and wonders where you went. If you have an unhealthy partner, he's glad that you're throwing everything away to cater to him, but eventually he'll get overwhelmed and smothered and kick you to the side anyway. That constant shape-shifting, that will destroy you and the love that you think you're building. And without an identity, your boundaries collapse. Women give in to all kinds of things they don't want. A lot of open relationships with an avoidant person who's dopamine binging. This is why women agree to them. Things like this. Now, your identity formation as a kid largely relies on parental validation during childhood, late childhood, and adolescence. Yes, it's shaped by peers as well, but your parents need to train you to build that identity. Lack of reflection in your parents' eyes and feedback from them, it wires compliance as survival, especially if your parents forced you to comply all the time with what they wanted you to be. Solution here, take an identity inventory, okay? What are your likes? What are your dislikes? What are your values, your beliefs, your ethics, your long-term goals? What are those independent of other people? What do you believe is right and wrong? What do you dream of doing? What is your ambition? What is your desire? Even if it's to start a family, great, that's something. Most women will say, well, I don't know. I could start a family or not based on what he wants. No, what do you want? Okay, first. Second, begin using those to practice micro boundaries. Well, I would prefer this. Can we do that? I would really like this. Being able to tell people your likes and desires at all. Most women struggle with this, right? Someone asks what you want and you collapse inward trying to please them because you don't want to say something they don't like. Well, I don't want to bother them. Well, then you're not being a human and they're having a relationship with a cardboard cutout. That relationship probably won't last very long, unfortunately, for you. And then, number 3, build anchors outside of romance. Your friends, your hobbies, your interests. Don't let those go. Don't stop being a human when you get into a relationship. Most women get into a relationship and become a love robot. That is all they are. Everything else gets wiped out of their memory, and they are solely there to please their partner so they don't get abandoned. And their friends say, man, I haven't heard from her in 3 years. Don't be that. Because a good partner will mourn your loss and a bad partner will enjoy it until they kick you to the curb. I've seen this myself, by the way. I have 3 daughters. My oldest daughter, I took her on a daddy-daughter date the other day. We were driving in the car and she just piped up and said, you know, lots of people think I'm cute. And I said, yes. And she said, and I look good in everything. And I said, uh-huh. And she said, I like dogs. She's 7. But that's what she's learning is our family. We tell her she's cute. She looks great and everything. She does. She's a little fashionista, but she has that identity. She also says things like, I'm very clever. I'm very smart. She doesn't brag. I'm clever. I'm very smart. Yes, you are. Because I tell her that when she solves puzzles and problems, I validate that. And as she begins telling me what she likes and who she wants to be, I'm like, tell me more. Why do you want to be that? That's kind of cool. That sounds like fun, right? She loves hedgehogs. Great. I bought her a million hedgehog things, right? Validating her identity so that she can grow in her relationships and be her. She doesn't have to shrink herself to be with me. She can share herself with me. And most of you never had that. You need a partner who does that with you, but you need to rise to that. Instead of shrinking yourself for a good partner who doesn't want you to do that, you need to be ready to share yourself. And that means identifying yourself. I know that a lot of the people watching this show right now have had attachment issues for their entire life. That's why I want to invite every single one of you to check out my attachment repair program. It just might be the jump that you need to go from insecurely attached and lonely and frustrated to fully secure, connected, and bonded in a great relationship like nothing you've ever felt before. Check out my website, adamlanesmith.com, for the attachment repair program. Let's talk about this one next. When dad's indifference shifts into treating you as if you don't matter, you will treat your body as the only thing anyone will ever value. Those wounds will cut even deeper. Let's talk about this. Number 5, the body as value wound. If dad treated you as if you were uninteresting, he was just like, yeah, kid, whatever, right? I talk to my daughter endlessly about hedgehogs. I don't like hedgehogs personally. I don't dislike them. I'm just like, oh, it's an ouch mouse, right? Whatever, right? But for her, they're fascinating. So I'm listening. All of a sudden, hedgehogs are interesting because she's interesting to me. She makes them interesting for me. See the difference? I'm interested in my daughter, so I listen. If your father didn't do that, your brain said nothing I do is good enough, right? I can't even win trophies. He doesn't care about trophies. I offer nothing. And then you go out into the world and everyone starts staring at you. What do the boys do in middle school and high school? They stare about 1 foot lower than your face. And you walk and they stare at your rear end and they just stare. And you suddenly notice that men like body parts. And then you engage with men and you learn that men like bedroom experiences. And you say, at least I have one thing that makes me interesting. And you will believe that this is all that you have. A lot of our society, Instagram society and everything involved in it now, society rewards women for being a warm body. Now, in adulthood, this can lead to a hyperfixation on your appearance, on your weight, on anything about you, the tiniest imperfections. Everything about you is wrong, and you have to max everything out, right? You could have eating disorders. Your partners that you choose might only value the physical. You might get into situationship after situationship, hoping, like those young women that I've coached, that sex on the first date will lead to marriage someday. Your body issues are there. If I'm not perfect, I'll be abandoned. I have to cover up every imperfection. Ladies, I hate to say this, but a lot of this is what makeup is for these wounds right here, right? Healthier women use very little makeup, mostly at all. The women who are growing up like this use a lot. That's not to criticize women who use makeup, by the way. There's times and places and things and blah, blah, blah. But if you're using it because you fear to be seen and you have to create a false image so you won't be abandoned, there's a problem. Now, in our modern world, especially, validation is a bad thing. I'm just going to be blunt, right? Deprivation of validation in your childhood deprives your dopamine pathways. Your dad never engaged with you, so you didn't get oxytocin or serotonin, but you also probably got almost no dopamine. You were never rewarded for anything. Now, with Instagram and social media, hey, right, all the young girls are getting on there and getting a lot of dopamine hits with a lot of likes and a lot of guys in the comments going, hey, baby girl, you look good. It's a lot of dopamine validation for a lot of starving young women who will then drive them to do things they may deeply regret. This can lead to a huge fixation on appearance and everything else for your worth. Your body is all your worth. That's the messaging. Ladies, I'm here to tell you, you are so much worth more than that. It's unbelievable. I have 3 daughters. Every single one of them is a precious human being who is unique and interesting in some way. There's not a human alive who doesn't deserve love. And there's not a human I've ever met in my life that wasn't interesting in some way. Every human is interesting and important. Every human. Okay? You just don't know it. I don't know what your father was doing that led him to that path and being that with you, but he was wrong. So we need to fix that for you. Okay? Solutions here. We need to expand your worth beyond your appearance. What skills do you have that you value? What skills have you mastered? Your skills will determine a huge part of your sense of self-worth and accomplishment. What values do you hold? What is your sense of right and wrong? Okay, and how often do you stick to it? Go back to that process. And number 3, what is your presence like? Not just your body, but who are you? When people are around you, what do you exude? I was talking with Margarita Nazarenko recently and reading her book, and she talks in there about the energy that a woman brings to a room, and not woo-woo energy. Like when a queen walks in a room, everyone knows it, and they're aware that she's there, but they also are calmed in her presence because her nervous system is regulated, and they feel better that she's there. It's not her body. She can wear 16 layers of clothes. It's her aura that she projects. Ladies, what is your presence? Big part of feminine energy right there. There's also safe embodiment practices for your body. You need to like your body. Your body is not a marketing scheme to get people to pay attention to you, okay? Do you do yoga for yourself? Do you move the ways you want to? Do you have non-sexual touch with partners and friends and family? Non-sexual touch. Is your body bringing you joy in non-sexual ways? That's very important. Even more, and here's something interesting, pick a partner who can affirm traits beyond sexual and also beyond physical. What are non-sexual things he likes about you? About your body, non-sexual things he likes about your body. It's going to be tough because guys will sexualize pretty much anything. Like, hey, baby, nice ear, right? But what are things he likes about you beyond just sexual things? What are things he finds beautiful? Not hot, right? But it's good to be both. Like, it's good that he likes both, but there's hot and then there's beautiful, right? And then what does he like about you beyond your body? Your character. What is my character? What do you see about my character when you look at me? That's important. I know I've probably given a lot of guys heart palpitations right there because there's a lot of women going to go and say, what do you like about my character? And he's going to go, what does that mean? Right? Curse you, Adam Lingsmith. I know that, but that's fine. That is a question that should be asked. He should have an answer. You should have an answer for what you like about his character too, by the way. Now, the next wound is if dad crushed your voice, if he silenced your opinions. This wound becomes even more ugly and insidious. I call it the no voice wound. When dad taught you to never push back, when he taught you that fighting back or even discussion was hopeless, your nervous system linked silence with survival. Now, here's something I need to teach you. Your limbic system, the fight or flight system, is not just fight or flight. It goes like this: fight, flight, fawn, and freeze. Fight, if you can, but in a partnership, you're not going to fight most likely, right? Especially if you fought back at dad, it got worse. So you learn to go to flight. But flight doesn't work to run away from your primary caregiver, your parent, or the person you love most on the planet, your romantic partner. So flight is now gone. Now you have fawn, approval seeking, pleasing, serving. Okay? That's all you have left before you just freeze and wait for the damage to be done. So fawning, fawning, fawning. Women with this wound are in a constant fawn state, appeasing to stay safe. This is why most of you, when I post videos and say, here's how to take care of your avoidant partner, here's what you should expect in return, here's this, you instantly come in and say, oh, Adam's telling us to cater endlessly to people. Not because that's what I'm saying. I say the opposite in every video, if you've noticed, but because your brain instantly says, that's all I have. Your brain is programmed to instantly go to the fawn response. You might try to grow out of that and grow back into a fight response and get angry at your fawning response, but that's you on the inside of your brain. Understanding that fear of conflict is your biggest fear of all, okay? Because you're afraid of conflict, you tolerate mistreatment rather than fight because fighting feels hopeless. When this happens, silence becomes self-abandonment and self-erasure. I am erased. I'm abandoning myself. At least I'll be safe. Okay? I will please them. Nothing bad will happen. I mean, everything bad will happen, but that's what your brain says. So repeated suppressions in childhood, being dismissed, shut down, being brutalized for trying to fight back and also punished for flight and running away. So then you just have to please. It stimulates your vagus nerve for a constant tightening and a fawn response. This makes self-assertion feel completely unsafe. You can't advocate for yourself because it feels like you'll die if you do. Solutions here, okay? Practice tiny micro assertions. Choose your own meals. Have calendar input. Ask for little things you want. One thing I have most of my clients practice, if you have a good partner, is asking permission first to ask for things. Not because you need permission, but because if you ask a loving partner for permission, they'll say, you don't need my permission. And you say, well, I need it anyway, please. Okay, you have my full permission to ask me for things and to speak. Oh, okay. That will lower the threshold for you. It's not asking permission because you need it. It's asking permission so you feel safer. This is only to be done with a healthy partner. I don't want any of you going to get permission from an unhealthy partner. That is not the point. A healthy partner will not brutalize you for this or exploit you. That's what I'm trusting there. So make sure you've got a good, ethical, loving partner. Doesn't even have to be fully secure, but ethical and loving before you try that. Okay. And then reframe conflict, right? Conflict can be a healthy disagreement. We are bound to disagree at times. Okay. Normal disagreement, though, is a good, loving conversation where you learn from each other. You're curious. You ask questions about each other. I'm going to learn more about you because we had a small disagreement. I'm really curious to dig in and find out more about where we're different and see where we're still the same. This can grow with a good, healthy partner. It's going to take time and effort, okay? You might want to voice journal. Voice journaling is interesting. You open up your phone, you have a voice app, you dictate into it. It's not text to speech, it's voice. You speak into it and you talk out loud. And as you do this alone in a room, it builds your confidence to begin speaking. Your articulation goes up. You get used to using certain phrases more out loud, which builds that programming in your brain. Voice journaling can be really helpful for this. I'll never forget the young mid-20s female client who came in to me with quiet, disorganized attachment in particular, who said her husband was going crazy because he felt like he was married to a cardboard cutout who didn't tell him no. And she couldn't understand why he wanted to hear no, why he wanted her to be a little more crazy, why he wanted her to just push back a little. I helped her understand that he didn't feel like he was married to a human being. Her constant fawning was actually treating him like he was a sociopath, that it would be dangerous to cross. So he was feeling insulted, but also abandoned. She had emotionally abandoned him because she loved him. Rebuilding her sense of self actually made him feel loved and cared for. Having boundaries, saying no, and having preferences was everything he'd wanted. As she started coming back to life, their marriage came back to life, and he loved it. She was shocked, by the way, that he wanted a woman who said no occasionally. Ladies out there, guys like personality. Healthy men crave your personality. It's got to be a healthy, good personality, right? Not the screaming, hitting him in the head with a frying pan personality, but a loving, intimate personality. Now, finally, for many women, dad equated love with servitude. And this is often the most toxic wound of all. I call this the servitude wound. If dad modeled that love had to equal painful sacrifice, you learn to serve and even get hurt instead of connecting. This means in adulthood, you're going to collapse into caregiving. You're going to neglect yourself. Massive codependency rates among these women, okay? Dad was a drunk all the time. I had to clean up his beer bottles and take care of him and pretend nothing was wrong. I was sad and scared all the time, but that was love, and now my boyfriend does the same thing, right? Or you might avoid men almost entirely, a fear of being consumed by these giant baby creatures who sweat and curse and spit and ruin your life. Right? That fear of being consumed. There's a lot of avoidant women out there actually with this servitude wound. I refuse to be locked into slavery. I will not connect emotionally with a man. Now, your parent modeling shapes your attachment strategies. How you got safety from dad is probably how you'll try to get safety from other men. So over-functioning with your caregivers wires you to collapse into roles, not relationships. You play a role. Solutions here. Let's reframe service as reciprocity, not collapse. Reciprocity means that you have to have capacity to give, and to have capacity, you have to receive. What is your output, and is it matched by your input? Sustainability is manageable, but it's also required in a relationship. It's mandatory and necessary for sustainability. If your relationship's not sustainable, stop and have a firm conversation about that. And then practice receiving, knowing that reciprocity is going to be there. You have to be able to receive from loving partners, or they will leave because they don't want to be a charity case either. Point blank, choose men who like to give. Not men who overperform like anxiously attached men, nice guys, right? They're giving to get. Choose men who like to give and also who are happy to receive. Be very clear about that, okay? I had a client who only knew how to serve, and she had one abusive relationship after another, and she really thought that's what men were. And then she met me and said, Adam, you're the only man I've ever met who's not weird and abusive. And I said, well, that's awful that your coach is the only nice man you've ever met. I told her, from now on, the bar is Adam, right? Your boyfriend should make you feel better than your coach does. So we reprogrammed her thinking around the quality of men she would accept, not the takers and not just the givers, but the reciprocity men, right? Instead of being anxiously attached or avoidantly attached, running to men to serve them, running away from men so you don't get trapped, instead, finding the right men who want to give and receive with you and talking openly about it. These have to be explicit, open conversations about the balance. You have to discuss it and balance it together. Now, I want to be clear for all of you who've been listening to this. These wounds were never your fault. Fixing them, though, is your responsibility because no one's going to come and do it for you. I don't think your dad's going to paratroop into your life and suddenly have a revelation and give you full closure. The men you're chasing are not going to turn around and say, wow, your dad and I were both wrong. That's not going to happen. I know you're waiting for that. Your nervous system is. That's not going to happen, not ever. You're going to have to overcome these, probably with the help of your friends. So let's be really clear here. You don't need to hate your father. As a father, I don't want you to hate your father, right? That's not the goal. You don't need to wait for his apology. You don't need to wait for his closure and proof that he loves you. You don't have to despise him. This is not demonizing fathers. I am a father. I love fathers. But fathers can screw up. What you need today is to recognize that your father was an unreliable teacher. He taught you things about yourself that were never true, and you've been living as if they were laws of the universe. Water is wet, gravity pulls things down, and I am unlovable. That's the lie that your nervous system's been living in. But lies can be replaced. I've watched thousands of women who thought they were doomed to loneliness and pain rebuild marriages and relationships that finally felt safe and warm. I've seen women who could never say no discover that setting boundaries made their man respect them and desire them more, not less. I've seen women who thought their body was their only worth Learn to be cherished for their humor, their presence, their character, their heart. You don't need to stay stuck in your father's story. You can write a new story for you. Now, what I've shared today is powerful, but it's also only the beginning. Awareness is not enough. To actually rewrite those wounds, you need a step-by-step guidance and a safe place to practice new patterns. That's why my team and I offer private coaching and the attachment repair program. In these programs and in coaching, we'll uncover which wounds are driving your relationships today. We'll build the scripts, the routines, and the daily practices that rewire your attachment for you. And you'll finally experience what it feels like to love without fear and to be loved without performing. So if you're serious about breaking free from toxic love and building the connection you've always craved, click the link in the description and apply for coaching with me and my team. Because your father may have written the first chapter of your story, but only you can decide how the rest is written. If there's one truth that I want you to carry with you after this video, it's this. Your father may have shaped your wiring, but he doesn't get to define your future. Those invisible contracts that you signed as a little girl, I'm not enough, I have to perform, I can't have needs, they were survival strategies, not life sentences. The fact that you recognize them now means you already have the power to choose differently. Transformation, though, doesn't happen by accident. It happens when you finally say, I refuse to live by someone else's broken map anymore. When you stop chasing men who repeat your wounds and you start building relationships that reflect your worth. Every woman I've worked with who broke these cycles had to face the same decision you do now. Keep repeating what's familiar or step into the uncomfortable work of rewiring. And every single one of them will tell you the freedom on the other side is so worth it. So take what you've learned today. Don't just nod along. Put it into action. Question the old messages. Practice the skills I laid out for you in this video. Get the guidance you need because you deserve more than survival. You deserve secure, steady, lasting love. And it all starts with the step you take next. I'm Adam Lane Smith, the Attachment Specialist. Thank you for sharing your time with me here today. Thank you for paying attention to yourself as a human being. That is what the world needs. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, help support the channel. That's a huge boost to us when you do those things, by the way. It does mean a lot. And make sure you come to my next live stream. I'd love to see you there.